You are surrounded by people, and yet somehow, you have never felt more alone in your entire life. That feeling right there, that hollow, quiet ache sitting in the middle of a room full of laughter and conversations happening all around you, that is one of the most painful human experiences that almost nobody talks about openly. And if that just hit you somewhere deep, keep watching, because what I am about to share with you is going to change the way you see yourself and every social situation you walk into from this point forward. Let me paint the picture that I know you already know too well. You show up, you are physically there, maybe it is a party, a work gathering, a dinner with friends, a family event. You are standing right in the middle of all of it. People are talking, laughing, making eye contact with each other, sharing inside jokes, connecting, and there you are nodding along, holding your drink a little tighter, smiling when it feels like the right moment to smile, laughing slightly after everyone else laughs because you are following the rhythm of the room rather than actually feeling it. Inside there is this voice, this quiet, relentless voice that is asking, why does this feel so hard for everyone else and so impossible for me? And here is what makes it even worse. You go home. You lie down. You replay the entire night in your head and you pick apart every single moment. Did I say the wrong thing? Did I talk too much? Not enough? Was that person bored by me? Why did they walk away mid-sentence? Why do I always feel like the odd one out even when I am technically included? That cycle of overthinking, that mental exhaustion after social situations, the dread before them and the shame spiral after them, that is not just a quirk of your personality, that is a signal. And it is pointing at something very specific that most people never get the chance to address. Here is a truth that took researchers studying human psychology and connection decades to fully understand. Loneliness in social situations has almost nothing to do with the number of people around you. Studies have consistently shown that people with full social calendars, people who are constantly surrounded by others, often report the highest levels of emotional isolation. The problem is not proximity, it is depth. It is the invisible wall between being present in a room and actually feeling like you belong in that room. Now, most people do one of two things when they feel this way. They either force themselves to socialize more, push through the discomfort, keep showing up and hoping that one day it just clicks. Or they pull back entirely. They start turning down invitations, they get quieter, they shrink themselves, they tell themselves they are just introverted and leave it there. And neither of those approaches solves anything. One exhausts you, the other isolates you further. Both leave you exactly where you started, except now you have lost months, sometimes years, cycling through the same experience. I want to stop here for a moment because what I am about to share has genuinely helped thousands of people shift out of that exact pattern. There is a program linked in the description below this video. I am not going to go deep into it right now, but I will say this. If you have been sitting in this feeling for longer than you want to admit, the program is there. But honestly, most people who need it most will scroll right past it. They will tell themselves they will figure it out on their own. They will bookmark this video and never come back. If that sounds familiar, that impulse to delay, to wait, to say not right now, that impulse is part of the same pattern keeping you lonely in the first place. Just something to sit with. Now, back to the real conversation, because here is what nobody is telling you about this experience. The loneliness you feel in crowded rooms is not about your personality. It is not about being awkward. It is not a fixed trait you were born with. It is a learned pattern of disconnection. And patterns, by definition, can be unlearned. What happened, for most people who feel this way, is that at some point very early, you got a message, spoken or unspoken, that being fully yourself in front of others was somehow risky. Maybe you said something genuine and people laughed at you for the wrong reasons. Maybe you opened up and it was used against you. Maybe you were just never taught how emotional connection actually works because honestly, almost nobody is. So your nervous system, trying to protect you, learned to hold back. It learned to scan rooms for threats instead of opportunities. It learned to perform rather than connect. And now every social situation you walk into triggers that same protective response, that same tightening, that same internal retreat. Even when you desperately want to feel close to the people around you, your brain is running an outdated program. It thinks it is keeping you safe. What it is actually doing is keeping you separate. And here is where the pain gets really specific. Think about the relationships you wish were deeper right now, the friendships that exist on the surface but never seem to go anywhere real, the conversations that stay politely shallow no matter how many times you have them, the people you genuinely like but somehow never manage to click with, no matter how many times you are in the same room. You see other people forming those deep, effortless bonds. You watch it happen right in front of you. People who seem to just get each other instantly, who laugh freely, who lean in, who share real things. And somewhere in the back of your mind, a tiny, devastating thought crosses your mind. Why is that so easy for them and so hard for me? That thought, that specific thought, is one of the most common experiences reported by people who go on to completely transform their social lives. It is the gap between who you are when no one is watching and who you feel you have permission to be when people are. And bridging that gap, that is the actual work. Not learning scripts, not memorizing conversation topics, not forcing eye contact or practicing power poses in mirrors. The work is understanding why that gap exists and dismantling the architecture that built it. When people go through that process, the shift is not subtle. I have seen people who spent years showing up to events and leaving feeling emptier than when they arrived, suddenly find themselves in the middle of conversations they did not want to end. Not because they changed who they were, because they stopped hiding who they were. The loneliness does not disappear all at once, but there is a moment, and it is a very specific moment, where something softens, where you are sitting across from someone and you realize you are actually present, not monitoring yourself, not calculating how you are coming across, just there, and the other person feels it, and they lean in, and something real happens. That moment is available to you, not as a reward for years of suffering through awkward social situations, not as something only naturally charismatic people experience. It is available to you as soon as you understand the specific mechanism that has been blocking it. Here is something powerful to understand. Genuine human connection does not happen because two people have the right things in common or the right chemistry. It happens when one person has the courage to be a little more real than the situation calls for, and the other person feels safe enough to match it. That is it. That is the entire formula. And the person who goes first, the one who drops the performance first, that person holds incredible social power, not because they are louder or more impressive, but because they gave something real. And real is magnetic. Think about the people in your life you feel most drawn to, the ones you could sit with for hours. I would bet that what makes them magnetic is not their resume or their jokes or their looks. It is that they make you feel safe to be yourself around them. They are not performing. They are not trying to impress you. They are just genuinely there. And your nervous system recognizes that and relaxes in their presence. You can become that person for others, not by changing your personality, by changing your relationship with your own authenticity. Now imagine what your social life looks like 12 weeks from now after actually doing this work. You walk into a room and instead of that familiar tightening in your chest, there is something else there. Curiosity, maybe. A quiet confidence that does not need the approval of every person in the room. You have conversations that go somewhere. You leave events feeling energized instead of hollowed out. People start reaching out to you, asking when they are going to see you again, because something about you has changed and they cannot quite name what it is. Relationships that were surface level start going deeper without you forcing it. That is not a fantasy version of your life. That is a version that becomes available when the wall comes down. The cost of staying where you are right now is not static. Every year you spend feeling disconnected from the people around you, every party you leave early, every friendship that never quite becomes what you needed it to be, every night lying awake replaying conversations and wondering why connection feels just out of reach. Those are not neutral experiences. They compound. The pattern gets more entrenched. The protective walls get thicker, and the distance between who you are alone and who you allow yourself to be around others gets wider. You do not have to stay in this. That is the whole point of everything I have shared with you today. This is not your personality, this is a pattern, and patterns change. There is a program linked in the description below this video. It exists specifically for the person who just watched this entire video and recognized themselves in every word of it. Not for someone who kind of relates. For the person who felt seen in a way that almost made them uncomfortable, because that kind of recognition is rare and it means something. Most people will not take action today. Most people will close this video, go back to the same patterns, and wonder years from now why nothing changed. The program is there for the person who is done waiting for it to somehow get better on its own. It is linked below. The decision is yours. But if something in your gut is saying this is the moment, trust that.